Sarah and I were inseparable. We'd weathered every storm together: breakups, marriages, births, and the kind of quiet loneliness that creeps in when life becomes a blur of routine. It wasn't the big, obvious issues that bothered us. It was the small things, the kind of things that GW at you when you can't quite put your finger on why you feel unsettled. My husband Jason was always working lately. I couldn't remember the last time he put down his laptop long enough to ask how I was really doing. Emily's husband, Mark, was there physically present, but he might as well have been a while. We shared the same space, but lived in separate worlds. One evening, after too much wine, Emily let out a laugh. What if we swapped husbands for the weekend, strictly for emotional support? Of course, I raised an eyebrow, caught between shock and amusement. Like a husband experiment, we both chuckled, but beneath the laughter, an idea began to take root. The kind of idea that lingers in the back of your mind, nagging at you long after the conversation ends. That weekend, I spent time with Mark, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. He actually listened to me. He remembered little things like how I liked my Tino reminders needed. There was a warmth in his attention that I hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, Emily was with Jason, and to her surprise, he wasn't the man she'd been complaining about for months. He listened, he remembered, he made her feel like she mattered. For the first time, she felt her. It was meant to be a harmless weekend, an experiment, a distraction, but the emotional connection each of us experienced was undeniable. Days passed, but the effects lingered. I began to notice something different. Jason had become more distant. The man who once knew my every mood now seemed to barely notice when I was upset, but somehow he was paying attention to every small detail about Emily. One night, while making dinner, I glanced over at Jason's phone. A message popped up from Emil. "Missed our talks. You really getting me, Miss Star." Dropped. I didn't need to see any more. The silence between us that night said everything. When I confronted him the next day, Jason's face told Asri that didn't match his words. "It's not what you think," he said, fumbling with his hands. "She just gets me." The words stung more than I expected. Gets me after everything we'd been through. I was the only who understood him. Emily wasn't faring much better. Mark had become increasingly distant. He was there physically, but emotionally, he was miles away. And when he said, "I'm just tired," or "It's been a long week," Emily couldn't help but wonder, was he tired from everything, or just from her? Then, during one of their routine dinners, Emily let something slip. Mark and I had the best conversation last night, I feel like, we're finally on the same page. I froze mid-bite. Same page. I thought the swap was just for the weekend. Emily's face went pale. She tried to brush it off, but I could hear the crack in her voice. It was, but I don't know. Things just clicked. We've been talking so much more lately. It was too much to ignore. The experiment had cracked open something neither of us was ready to face. It wasn't just the husbands. It was us. The women who had been starving for emo connection, for validation. We had used our husbands as a means to an end, never expecting the end would come so abruptly. My confrontation with Jason was a quiet one. It wasn't filled with screaming or accusations, just a soft, painful realization that our marriage had shifted beyond recognition. I asked, "Do you still love me?" His hesitation was answer enough, and Emily, she too found herself standing at a crossroads. She loved Mark, but was it enough? Was he enough? Or was she too broken to even know what love was anymore? Weeks went by, and the tension between the two couples only grew wetter. Therapy, we tried date nights, but no matter how hard we tried, the foundation of our marriages was too cracked to repair. I knew I needed more than just a man who could remember my birthday. Emily, too, had to face the truth. She had betrayed Mark, but in doing so, she had betrayed herself. She had used someone else's attention as a band-aid for wounds that could only heal if she learned to love herself first. One evening, over coffee, Emily looked at me with tear-filled eyes. "I'm sorry, I should have never let it go this far. I've been lying to both of us." I nodded slowly, the weight of my own guilt settling in it. "Think we both have." My voice cracked slightly. but I kept going this whole mess. It showed me something important. I met her, we met her, I wiped her straight hair, and I need to stop pretending like I don't deserve more than this. I think I'm done pretending too, Emily whispered, finally finding the word she'd been searching for. It's time to be honest with ourselves and everyone else. That was the moment things changed. The truth had come to light, and although the path ahead wasn't easy, it felt lighter. We had uncovered our own buried truths, and now it was time to start rebuilding. As I signed the divorce papers, there was no dramatic confrontation, no final outburst. There was only the quiet certainty that this was the right decision, that this was the beginning of something new for both of us and Emily. She and Mark took a break. They needed time apart to figure out who they were individually before they could figure out if they even wanted to be together. But as I walked away from my old life, I knew one thing for certain. Sometimes you need to break something completely before you can build something new. And maybe, just maybe, that was what was needed all along. If you've ever felt torn between doing what's comfortable and taking a leap into the unknown, you're not alone. The truth can be messy, painful, and at times liberating.